Hi, Emmanuel. All right. Okay, so welcome guys to today's session. Um, as we all know, we this is a continuation of the Microsoft 365 community program that some of us came together to undergo, basically, just to tell and teach um, cloud enthusiasts about Microsoft 365, what it entails, everything about it, basically the technologies, the services, and to ensure that we are skill ready, skill capable, and then we can um, call ourselves Microsoft 365 consultants, technical support engineers, and even administrators. And then we've started this for some time now. We've gone through a series of other technologies, topics, and the likes. In Active Directory, in Azure Active Directory, in Exchange Online, and now we're in SharePoint Online. And yes, so my name is Joshua, and I'm your moderator again today for today's session. It's a continuation of last week, or the session in basically in SharePoint Online. And then we have our speaker. Yeah, we are all speakers, moderator, then the main speaker, and then the main speaker for today's session is Nyore. As you all know her, she's a SharePoint subject matter expert and also a OneDrive subject matter expert. We can see it from the sessions we've had. It's very evident. She's well soft-spoken actually, and then she took us through a nice series last week. And I remember I told most of us that we should ensure we pay attention to whatsoever she would be taking us through. And I hope you guys did that because um, she made everything very, very easy last week. Very, very easy, right? You think permission is easy, right? Until maybe you work with or you handle a SharePoint project with over maybe 5,000 users, or even let's say 1,000 users, or even 500 users, and then the permission hierarchy is something else, and then you break one permission, and everything scatters, right? So you know that you really appreciate what she really put us through or taught us last week. So guys, I would still enjoin us to ensure we pay maximum attention because she's kind of taking us through the ABC of SharePoint Online, right? She makes it very easy, and she's an expert in this area. Thank you, Nyore, for last week, and welcome to today's session too. Okay. Yeah, so we have some housekeeping rules. Please, as we all know, the session is being recorded and would be made available to us in the WhatsApp group, and then on it will be uploaded to our channel, the YouTube channel also. Please, if you're not speaking, kindly mute your mics and then ensure that you write down all your questions, and then during the Q&A session, you'd be allowed to ask your question. Please do not at any point unmute your mic and interrupt the session basically. So you can also do well to follow us on Twitter at NGM365, and then also subscribe to our channel. We're also on LinkedIn, guys. So you can also follow us there for up-to-date activities and information, basically. And then we also value your feedback, right? So you can write to us and let us know areas where we can improve. Like as some of you already know, this is kind of a maiden edition, and then there are rooms for improvement at all levels. So we advise and we encourage everyone to write us, and then your feedbacks are always welcome. So yeah, also I'd like to talk about I think this was hidden. So I'd like to talk about our organizer, Olajumoke Toriola. As you all know, she's a Microsoft certified trainer, uh, also a Microsoft valuable professional, right? And the CTO of Hashem with lots of years of experience in not just tactic or stagnant experience, right? Or experiences, but progressive one in the IT industry, basically across all department sessions in the IT industry. So she's basically the organizer of this program. And then um, we thank you very much, MJ, for giving us this opportunity. So at this point, right, I would hand over to the speaker. Nyore. You're welcome once again. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
All right. So I'm just going to share my screen and we will begin. Is my screen visible?
Yes, we can say
Yes,
Yes,
it.
yes,
it
it
is.
is. Yes.
Okay, so today we're going to be talking about SharePoint lists and columns. Last week we went through permissions, we went into permissions, we saw how to break permission inheritance, we created sites, we created subsites, we went into site content, and we talked about creating a document library and creating a list. So today we're going to talk more about SharePoint lists and columns. And we also stated what a list can do last week. So let me see. Mm. Okay, so I'll just share my slides, explain a bit, and then we'll go into the practical aspects of it. So in a list, we have different types of columns in a list. We have single line of text, multiple line of text. We have calculated columns, choice columns, lookup columns, date and time columns. You can make a column required, and then you can change the format of your list how you want it to look like. Like I said last week, this is just basically a detailed explanation. A SharePoint list is simply a collection of data that has some kind of structure to it. It is essentially like a table, a spreadsheet, or a simple database. It can include many different types of information, numbers, text, even images. We can have lists to do different things like inventories, event logs, reports, incident reports, and all of that. Single line of text is just um, writing, maybe you're writing your name or just as it states, it's a test. You can use numeric combination as well, maybe numbers and text, right? So it can be used for pin codes, phone numbers, names, and all of that. Multiple line of text is basically a longer single line of text. Maybe you're asked a question and you need to explain in details. In that situation, you would use a multi-line of text column. This is basically an example of an already created list and event inventory list. And these are basically extra resources. So I'll just go ahead and explain. I'll just go ahead into the site and then we can go straight into practicals. So last week we created the M365 series site. So all the explanations we're going to do and all the practicals we're going to do, I would make sure we do it inside the site that we created, so we can just keep building the site as we go. Okay, so like I explained last week, to create a list, you can go into sites content from here. I said this navigation is called the quick launch because from here you can easily navigate into contents that you want to. You can also go from here, go into site content. And I didn't mention this to you last week, but this is the home page. This is the site page. You can actually still create a list, a document library, or a page from here. Okay, so but how I usually create my list and my document libraries, I'll go into site content and then I would create a list. So we're going to create a list called employee data. So I can give the list a description, get users information, and then create. So this is employee data, and we can see it in the quick launch because we allowed it to show there. So basically, as we were creating the list, if you don't want it to show in the quick launch, you have to uncheck this before you create the list. But if you want it to show it in quick launch, you can check it. So some people prefer to leave it out of the quick launch, so they just have a few number of items here, and you don't have too many things here. So it depends on what you want to do. So for an employee data, what are the things that I would like to have in my employee data? So title is a single line of text, and I can say I would just leave it as title. So I would use it to state my user's status, Miss, Mrs, Mr, and all of that. So next thing I would do, I will create a single line of text, and I would say first name. Okay, single line of text and save. I would say first name as well. Sorry, last name. And I would save. Okay, so I want to create a column that has the first name and last name, which is going to be called the full name. From my explanation earlier, I talked about something called calculated column. So instead of when filling in the data, I want to create a calculated column so that first and last name are automatically populated in my list, right? So I will come here to say add column, and from here, looking at this, you don't see any option that says calculated column. So I will come here to say see all column types and say next. It will take me to this interface, and I can just say full name. Right, if you go through this, you would see the option that says calculated column, right? You select that calculated column and it brings you this interface that says formula. So you don't need to know all the formulas for a calculated column. Even me, I do not know most of the formulas. You can just go online and say SharePoint calculated column. So this gives you various formulas that you can use for calculated columns. I will just drop the link on the chat and you can, go through that later. So you don't need to know, you don't even need to know any of the formulas. You can just go online and check for them. So for this one, what is our list again? Okay, so we're trying to add the first name and the last name together. So we say equal to first name, add to formula. I copied this out earlier. And last name. So last name, add to formula. And come here to say okay. Okay, so why don't I have? Okay, so we have first name now, last name, and full name, right? What next should we have in an employee's data? Okay, we want to find out where this user stays, or want to have details of where the user stays. So we can select the location column and say next and say address. So let's just say street name. No, let's just say city only and save. Okay, so we might want to have so I just want to get different. Okay, so let's try to have a choice column. Let's say, is the employee an old or new? Okay, let's just say status. Old staff. And we can pick a color. Let's just pick this color. New staff. Board members. So basically, let's just do that and save. Okay, so I'm doing all of this to just use most of the columns that we have. Okay, so what column again do we need to use? Let's use the date and time column. Date of resumption. Okay. Okay, I also mentioned something about required column. So required column is basically making the information required. Sometimes you have a form to fill. Maybe someone shares a Google form with you or a Microsoft form with you, and there is this red asterisk on the form, right? It means that that particular question is required. So if you don't fill that required column, you won't be able to submit the details. That's what this required column is for. So let me uncheck it for this and save. I want to make the address column a required column. We didn't make it a required column before, but you can always come to your columns and edit them, make changes and all of that. So I want to make changes to address column. I'll come to column settings and say edit. I'll just scroll down, more options, and require that this column contains information. I say yes and I save. Okay, So do we need to use any other column? Okay, let's say image. For the employee, we need to add the employee's image. We want to see how the person looks like, basically. So let's add image and then say picture. Okay, so I have created this, and then I can decide to be the one to fill this list anytime I have a new employee, or we already have users in the organization. We need to fill this out. So let's add like 2 or 3 names to this. Let's say John. Adams. No, sorry, Mr. Okay, if you look at these items, it doesn't show the option for full name because that is a calculated column. We don't have to fill it because it's going to be auto populated. So you're going to see that when we're done with this. So address is required. You see this red asterisk that we have here is because we made this column a required column. Okay, before we do that, let's just try to save so that you see what happens. You see, it says you can't leave this blank because it is required. That's why it's giving you this error. So we cannot even save because that is blank. So we're going to pick the user's address. Let's say the user stays at Ojota. Let's see if anything will come out. You see, it automatically picks, it automatically brings out options for you to pick. So let's just say this is where the user stays. So it's the staff, a new staff. Let's say the staff is an old staff. Date of resumption. Um, let's just say this. Okay, so add picture of the user. Let's go to my pictures and just pick. Okay. Okay, so you see, I can reduce this because it is this. So this is Mr. Where are the names? I can't even see. Sorry, I'm looking for my name column and I can't see them. Okay, let's do this again. Yeah. Sorry. Let's try to create a, oh, hold on, let's modify this view. Let's see why we can't. Edit current view. Okay, so last name, where do we have full name, first name? Yes, you can see it. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's come back to site columns. Let's try to fix this. Just give me one tiny minute. Let's create a view. Okay. These are the columns I was looking for. Okay, so we created columns. So this is the full name column that we created, right? And this is the calculated column. So it adds the first name and the last name together. So we can decide to rearrange this and make first name, last name, and full name come to the beginning of the list so it looks rearranged. So to do that, we can come here, click on the drop down, and let me remove this. Format current view. Let's just go back into list settings. Okay, so we see that they are in numbers here. So we can make this one number 2 and make no, let's make this number 2 first name, make last name number 3, and then make first name make full name number 4. Okay, so we say okay. This list is just doing what it likes to be. Okay, so yes, we can see now that it is rearranged. So we have Mr. John Adams, full name, address, and this. So let's just create a new name to see what we have worked on, because we're just trying to fix some problems earlier. So let's say Adam, Mr. Adam Smith, address. Let's say he stays at Ozumba. Okay, he picks that for us. Let's say he's a board member. Date of resumption, we pick the date, add an image. And then we save. Okay, so you see, we have created this list. We have created the employee data list, and we have created a single line of text column. We created a calculated column, which is this full name. It basically calculates the user's first name and the last name to get the full name. We created a choice column where you can pick the status of the user. you can see the image, and you can see all of that. So you could see that when we finished creating this list, we're having some issues getting the first name which we have created. So sometimes these are the issues that you might run into in your list or in a document library. For example, let's say I want to remove this title column, right? I can come here and say edit current view, and then I would uncheck title and I would say save. So I will just refresh this. You see, title is gone. We can no longer see title. And then let's go back there, edit current view. You click on this drop down just at this top part and say edit current view. And then let's say I want to take out address. So I'll just uncheck that and come and say okay. So let's just refresh. So you see the address is gone. So for example, you have created a list and someone else has access to that list, and you come to work the next day, you are looking at your list and you see that some columns have disappeared, because I've had some issues like that. Some columns have disappeared and you're wondering what happened. You can't see things that you already put in that column. So first thing you can come to check is to go to the view that you have and just go through and see, oh, what is missing? Address. Okay, address is unchecked. You just check them back and say okay. So we'll just refresh this again. And sorry. Okay, so you see that the address is back and the data did not go missing. The data we already added initially did not go missing. So we just added it back. So you can remove these columns and you can also add them back, okay? And then you can create different types of views. So this view that I created is a test view because the one that we created earlier, I was not seeing what I wanted to see. So you can create view. So I can say, let me not make it too complicated. Let me create a view and just show you one thing. So let me say edit. No, I'm not trying to edit the view. I'm just trying to create a new view. So I will go to list settings and then say, you just scroll down and say create view, right? So you always try to create standard view because that's the default view for lists that are created. So I can say test2, right? And I can scroll down to say, so there's this option that says filter, right? I can go down to say show only items when the following value is true. So this is set to none. I can say show only items when the status is set to old, was it old stuff we put there? Okay, let's say okay and see what we have. Okay, it's old stuff, right? So you see, this view that we just created, we only show old stuff. So you can create views for different categories. You can say create view, you can create a view for when the user stays in Ojota Secondary School, or you can create a view for when resumption date is so and so. You can create a view for, so you can just create view for different things that you want to do, right? So that's all I would say about views, because if I give my example, we might get confused. So we might want to just digest that first. Okay, so sorry, list is a bit complicated. So um let's go back to list settings. We talked about versioning last week. So a list also has versioning settings. We talked about permissions. You can grant permission for this list. There's something I want to show. Let's go to advanced. Okay. So for example, I want to share this list to users, right? To be able to fill by themselves. Okay. I don't want to do the job of filling the details for everybody. So create items. Okay, so you see this option. This is a very important option, read access. It is set to read all items, but the moment I change it to read items that were created by user, once I share this list with you, I share this list with everybody, everybody will fill this particular list, but you filling the list, you will be able to see only what you have created in that list. You won't be able to see what other users have filled, right? So I can decide to share this list with everybody in the organization, sorry, so that they fill the details and get back to me. So I don't have to be the one to fill everything for everybody. And I want to make it confidential. So I will come to list settings and advanced, and I will change this option to say read items that were created by user. So only the user, only your items, whatever you have created, that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see what other users have added to the list. So this is one very important thing about a list, right? So you can then go and say, okay. But as an admin, you'll be able to see everything that the users have added to the list, right? But for users that you share this list with, they will only be able to see what they have added on the list, okay? So you can also, for example, you have gotten everything that you need on this list and you just need to view it, or you need to spool it as a report. You can come to export and say export to CSV, export to Excel, sometimes as a report. And I clicked on that. Let's see, maple. Let's see if I can sign in. Okay. Okay, so I'm having issue. Okay. I'm having issues opening this, but I'm sure you understand what what I was trying to do here. So it exported this list, but not how I wanted it to export. This is pictures, it's showing just this. Okay, so let's say you can't show this normally. So I've exported this and it shows all of this in the Excel that I have exported it to. Okay, so I can also go ahead to say, okay, I want to make this list a bit more colorful. I can say format current view, and I click on this, and I will just pick let's just pick any of these colors. Okay. Okay, so I have changed the way this list looks. So I think that is that on what I wanted to explain to you about lists. Where's my So we talked about the list columns and the different types of column. Okay, so I need to quickly show you what a lookup column is. So let's go back here and I will create a new list. So a lookup column is basically a column that looks up data from another list. Let's name it lookup. And then we create. Okay. So I will just create a number column. Quickly create a number column. Let's just say test column. That seems like LOP. Anyways. So I'll just write one, save, two, save, three, save. Okay, so we'll come back to our employee data list and we add a column. So this is the option for lookup column. I say I want to create a lookup column and I say next. Okay, so I will name it lookup again. You can give it any name. It doesn't have to be written as lookup. So type of column lookup. So I've created different lists and the list I want to use is the lookup list. So you can see it shows you the different lists that you have in that site. Okay, so we created the lookup list, so I'm going to click on lookup. So what do I want to I have different columns in that list. Which column do I want to use? I think we added those items in the title column and then I can save. Okay, so have created or successfully created the lookup column. So let me show you how it works. Miss Gracie. Address Victoria Island. Okay. Status, new staff, date of resumption, pick a date, add an image. I'll just add any image. Okay. So lookup column. You see the three options that we created on that column, they automatically appear. So I pick any of those columns and I save. Okay, so that is what a lookup column basically is, or what a lookup column does. So I think that's all we have for list. Okay, so that is all to know about list for now. You can go around to play around with the list, create different types of column, the lookup columns, and most importantly, you can try to create a calculated column. There are different formulas that you can create using the calculated column. You can create different types of data for a list. For a document library, you don't really need to do too much. creating a document library is just for you to add files and documents. So you don't really need lots of columns to indicate what but you can also do that. For example, you need to you can create a choice column for a document library. Let's just say add column. Let's just say you want to add a choice column and say next. You can want to classify the documents as, let's say, confidential documents. Sorry. You can want to say HR documents, you can want to say finance, and all of that. So and then let's just save. So for example, I create a Word document just like that, and I can say, okay, I just want to tag that document with any of these choices that I have created. So if I just refresh it, I should see the tag. No, it's not showing. Okay. You can see it's showing saved. Saving. I'm not sure why this file is locked. Oh, okay. It's opened somewhere else. That's why I'm unable to save it. Okay, so it is saved now. And you can see. So you can do that for your document library as well. So like I said in our last class, you build your sites and your list document libraries the way you want them to be. Okay, so as we already know, I like to give quizzes. So I will drop this link on the chat and you can do that. I don't think we can do that right here in the class, and you can do that and just indicate in the chat when you're done and I would check it. So I think I will give room for questions and answer now. So over to Joshua, I guess.
Okay, thank you so much, Nyore, for a wonderful session. Guys, I believe we all learned a lot from this time, columns and views, right? They look pretty simple, and I shall say, play around with it. Try to break something and then try to fix it again. That way, you would garner more experience about SharePoint basically. And then, guys, I also encourage us to, or everything you've been taught, all the classes you've attended, try to do beyond what you were shown or taught. And then I can see some persons asking questions in the group, right? It's good. So you can always do this. So thank you very much, Jenna, for this session. So if does anyone have questions? You can please raise up your hands, indicate basically, and then you'll be given the opportunity to do so. So no one is free. No one's hand is up. So it means today's class was pretty simple then, right? Okay, so anyone with question? Okay. All right, so we have Jessica. Please go ahead.
Hello. Okay. For my SharePoint, I have my like, can I share my screen so I can explain? Yeah, I'm having a challenge waiting.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
Please, you can share your screen. Let's see what challenge you are having.
Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Can you see my screen? Okay. Trying to create a list here now. So what do I do? Says, are you sure you want to close the file?
Okay, so this is from here. You're trying to create a site. You're not trying to create a list. So click on where you have communication site.
I should click on what?
Click on communication site.
Communication site.
Under frequent site, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can create a list from inside a site, not from the start page. So you can click on site contents if you have that there. Or just click on new from here. Like I earlier explained, click on new.
Okay, then list. Okay, so yes. It's under communication site. I do that.
Under any site that you have, you can create a list from there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, Jessica, thanks. Any other question? So Jessica, I believe you understand what she just explained.
Yes.
When you create a list, you need to be inside the site to create a list.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question. Mitoje, please proceed.
Hi, Nyore, great presentation. So I just have a question. The list we are creating in the SharePoint and the Microsoft list as an application, is there any difference between the two?
No, so they are the same lists, but the list you create from Microsoft list, they are actually stored inside your OneDrive, but they perform the same function. So you can create lists from Microsoft lists. It's an application itself with the same function, everything, but Microsoft list actually stored on under your OneDrive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Emmanuel. Any other question? I would just encourage us to read about you encountered a lot of issues around that, so try and read about that to prepare yourself. And then I also say that what Nyore taught us today actually goes beyond just SharePoint. And like Emmanuel asked, right? Microsoft lists, list from SharePoint. One is stored on SharePoint, one is stored on OneDrive, right? And then MJ can also confirm that, yeah, you can use, even I can confirm that you can use this list to build applications in Power Apps, right? You can use it to do a lot of things. So don't just look, don't just take what you just taught us as very, very simple stuff, right? Yeah, it's very simple, but its application goes beyond and beyond just here, and it's it's wow, basically. Right, so you can explore a lot of things, a lot of areas with this list. Okay, so any other question? Ruagbemika, Olubenga, Moses. Any question? Precious, Promise? Okay, so in the absence of questions, right, I would like to bring this meeting to a close, and then I'd like to thank everyone that took their time out to be in this session. Basically, we really appreciate you coming in this session, and then I'd like to also thank the speaker, Nyore, for the wonderful session. Thank you so much. And then we hope to see you guys next week. So next week we'll talk about OneDrive basically, and you'll see how OneDrive and SharePoint Online, basically OneDrive for Business and SharePoint Online are interlinked. Yeah, basically. So let's get set, and then I would like to say OneDrive basically is for individuals, and then SharePoint, as Mira has taught us, is for the entire organization, and intranet for the organization. So let's prepare our mind for next week's session, and then it promises to be great. So thank you everyone for your time. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Cheers. Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining. Sure.
Thank you.